While I was washing clothes, a dying young man floated to the surface. Later, he became my husband. But just as I discovered I was pregnant, he vanished. Half a year later, the authorities sent me to the imperial palace. Imprisoned there, I endured freezing cold, starvation, and humiliation, dying tragically along with the child in my womb. All because the world proclaimed his ascension to the throne was ordained by heaven, blessed by the gods. The events of Taocun simply couldn't exist. Opening my eyes again, I was back in Taocun, where all things were reborn. My friends were calling me to go wash clothes in Taoxi Creek. I shouted, "No one is going. With such a beautiful spring, why wash clothes?" Heh. If he truly was heaven sent, then let heaven save him. Main text, I died in a cramped courtyard. 10 days after entering the palace, frozen and starving, I begged a eunuch for food. I could endure it, but inside me was another life. The eunuch kicked me to the ground, "You filthy slut. Still lusting after his majesty?" I dared not say it wasn't my desire, it was the emperor who sought me as his wife. I could only plead, "In 2 months, I shall give birth. I am guilty, but the child is innocent. Let me deliver him, and I will die." Is that acceptable? I simply couldn't bear to part with the child within me. He already kicked me from inside. I thought, since it was his child, perhaps they would spare its life. The eunuch sneered savagely, then stomped viciously on my abdomen. "A bastard? You think you can bring it into the world? Do you really think the imperial family eats vegetables?" Blood spilled across the floor, yet I remained kneeling, banging my head on the ground in desperate pleas. "Please, honorable sir, speak to his majesty. Once the child is born, I will take my own life immediately. I longed so desperately to give this child a single glimpse of the sun." "Eunuch, stop dreaming. This is all by the emperor's sacred decree." My blood seeped through the cracks of the rough palace bricks, winding its way out. Like the peach blossom-strewn stream in Taocun. In my final moments of consciousness, I heard Pei Yu rushing in, his voice deep and urgent. "Is it clean?" "Your Majesty, it is clean." He declared, "If anyone mentions Taocun again, their entire clan shall be exterminated." So this was how deeply he hated those 3 years in Taocun. Yet back then, he had pleaded with me, his face aglow with joy. "Taocun is so beautiful. Yan Yan is even more beautiful. There's no maiden more lovely than Yan Yan in this world. Marry me. We'll spend our lives together, raising a brood of children." Hearing this, my heart stirred instantly. As an orphan girl, what I craved most was a family. That youth was beautiful and warm. To have a brood of children with him, how wonderful that would be. My heart overflowing with joy, I nodded in agreement. The entire village was kind-hearted, never bullying me for being an orphan. Instead, they helped me in every way. When they heard I was getting married, everyone pitched in to throw us a lively wedding. I never imagined that to him, all of this was a forbidden topic that couldn't be mentioned. Those wonderful villagers ended up suffering a tragic fate because of me. How bitterly unfair. My little friends, and the children who never got to see the world. "Yen Yen, let's go wash clothes together." Suddenly, I heard my childhood friend calling me. I opened my eyes and found myself back in my home in Taocun. The almanac on the table was open to the day in my past life when I saved Pei Yu. Had I been reborn? I scrambled out of bed in a hurry. Outside the window, the sun shone brightly, and the courtyard was filled with the warmth of spring and the fragrance of flowers. My friends were still full of life. My eyes instantly welled up. I knew I had been reborn. In my past life, these 3 friends were closest to me, and because of that, their entire family suffered the most tragic end. This time around, I would make it up to them. The thought filled me with determination. I called out to my friends outside the window, "Nobody's going anywhere. Why wash clothes on such a beautiful spring day? Come inside. I'll make you something delicious." I inherited my mother's talent for cooking. When I sold food in town, everyone within miles knew how skilled I was. So when I said something delicious, my friends were hooked like fish, obediently entering the courtyard. They laughed in unison, asking, "Yen Yen, what tasty treat are you making this time?" I replied, I'm making pancakes with fillings for you. At that, the three of them practically drooled. I said, wipe your mouths, you silly girls. They all burst into laughter. I quickly set up the stove and began making the pancakes. They watched in amazement as I kept adding ingredients to the pancakes. Yen Yen, after eating this meal, are you planning to give up on life? I held out the bulging pancake rolls to them and declared, live. I'll live even better. And I'll make us all rich together. With my past life's experience, I knew exactly how to make money. As for that beast, since he was destined by heaven, let heaven save him. By the time we finished the pancakes, noon had passed. We'd happily spent the entire morning in merriment. Thinking of the man in the water, he should have been floating on a raft by now. I tidied up the bowls and chopsticks. The four of us sang together as we headed to Taoxi Creek to wash clothes. At Taoxi Creek, fallen blossoms drifted everywhere. Even the flowing water carried a sweet fragrance. Far from that scum, life felt truly wonderful. That Pei Yu wasn't in the water, probably swept away by the current. At least he didn't pollute the spring pool. Recent spring rains have been fierce, swelling the Peach Brook. With no one to rescue him, he'll just keep drifting along. Soon he'll float straight out to the East Sea to feed the sharks. Just thinking about it made me happy. When I got home, I hung the laundry out to dry. Seeing how lovely the sunshine was, I brought the quilts out to air them too. Then I lay back in the bamboo chair, sunlight filtering through the peach tree branches onto my skin. It was warm and cozy, indescribably comfortable. I thought back to that cold, cramped corner of the imperial harem. The past was too painful to recall. To live this life anew, truly a gift from heaven. I must repay the villagers who helped me. Lost in thought, I suddenly heard a heavy thud at the courtyard gate. I rose and opened the gate. Pei Yu stood there, covered in wounds, soaked through. Weakly leaning against the gate, he asked, why didn't you go to the laundry? My heart skipped a beat. He wasn't dead? He asked why I hadn't gone to wash clothes? How did he know I was going? Could it be? He, too, had been reborn? It had to be. A cold sweat broke out on my skin. But I couldn't let him know I was reborn. Nor could I show that I knew he was reborn. In the previous life, he had killed the crown prince to seize the throne. Given his ruthlessness, if he discovered I knew, he'd likely snap my neck on the spot. He was testing me. I pointed at the courtyard full of laundry. You're being quite peculiar. Can't you see the clothes drying all over the yard? Why ask why I didn't wash clothes? Besides, whether I wash clothes or not, what business is it of yours? He glanced at the courtyard, panting, why didn't you wash the clothes this morning? Me, are you out of your mind? Whether I wash them morning or afternoon, what business is it of yours? He froze. As if convinced my laundry routine was beyond reproach. Then, he actually reached for my hand. My hand recoiled as if bitten by a venomous snake. Then I turned and slapped him hard across the face, shouting, you shameless lecher. Who do you think you are touching? He gasped, Yen Yen, save me. I smirked inwardly, save you? Aren't you heaven's chosen one? Why not let heaven save you? But I couldn't let him see my thoughts. So I feigned concern, what happened to you? He claimed he'd accidentally fallen off a cliff, just as he'd answered in my past life. In truth, he'd been pursuing the crown prince when imperial guards chased him, causing him to fall into the water. It turned out that in my past life, he'd been deceiving me from the moment we met. I examined the wounds on his body and pretended to mutter to myself, these look like cuts from imperial guard swords. He immediately grew tense. I slowly backed away, saying, you're a fugitive, aren't you? Save you? That's a criminal offense. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Pei Yu's face flushed crimson. Stop pretending. When I called you Yen Yen just now, you didn't even flinch. You recognized me long ago, didn't you? Damn it, this guy is a real snake. One careless moment, and I nearly fell into his trap. If it were just about me, it wouldn't matter, I could always die again. But behind me lay the lives of the entire village. I steeled myself, strike while he's down and finish him off. then toss his body into the peach brook. The peach blossom flood would carry him out to the East Sea to feed the fish in less than 2 days. A silent revenge, eliminating the threat without a trace. Damn it! I slowly reached for the door bar behind me. But suddenly, something felt off. How had he survived? In my past life, I was the first to find him. He was already completely unconscious. My friends and I had to exert tremendous effort to pull him out. This time, I didn't save him. So how did he survive? With the Peach Creek flooded, surviving without help would have been impossible. He must have had accomplices. My heart raced as I scanned the surroundings. Seeing my panic, Pei Yu grinned sinisterly. You admit it, don't you? I knew I couldn't admit it, even if it meant death. If I gave the slightest hint, he'd surely silence me forever. So I snapped, admit what? The whole village calls me Yen Yen. What's so strange about you knowing that? But you, pretending to know me, what exactly are you up to? Seeing my denial, he actually tried to grab my arm and play the romantic. This was like a pillow arriving just as I was dozing off. I'd been fretting over how to call for help without arousing his suspicion. The moment he grabbed me, I screamed at the top of my lungs, "Catch the pervert! Catch the pervert!" This was the perfect reaction of a complete stranger encountering a predator. No matter how suspicious he was, he couldn't find any flaws in my story. I knew him well, a man as venomous as a snake, as savage as a starving wolf. Every step I took required utmost caution, one misstep could be fatal. Taocun wasn't large, and within moments, Brother Haizi arrived first. He was my neighbor, always treating me like his own sister. Hearing about the man's assault, he swung his shovel and smacked him hard. The deep, resounding crack sounded incredibly satisfying. Villagers arriving behind him quickly gathered around. Upon learning this rogue had intended to assault me, each was filled with righteous indignation. They were ready to settle the matter right then and there. For the people of Taocun were kind and simple-hearted. My mother had once saved the entire village. Back then, a deadly epidemic swept through, sparing not a single household. My mother boiled wild wormwood from the mountains to save the entire village. Because of this, they cherished me, an orphaned girl, with special affection. But I couldn't let the villagers get blood on their hands because of me. If the authorities investigated, it would become a major liability. Watching them beat Pei Yu until he could no longer fight back, I stopped them from continuing. Pei Yu took the beating without retaliating, his gaze fixed on me. Yen Yen, do you hate me so much? If this were our first meeting, where does this hatred come from? If we were to put on a show, it had to be convincing. I stepped forward and slapped him hard across the face twice. You shameless scoundrel! Who do you think you're calling that? Where did you hear someone call me? Did you come here just to extort me? Have we ever met? Are you just here to spread lies and slander? Whose reputation are you trying to ruin? Then I turned to the villagers and said, everyone, bear witness. I, Qin Yen Yen, was born and raised in Taocun. Have I ever acted in a way that goes against proper customs? This scoundrel sat at my doorstep today, claiming he knows me and has some connection to me. I'm an honest person, yet he's slandering me out of nowhere. Even injured like this, he still has evil intentions toward me. He's no good. Who knows what he's up to? Please help me take him to the authorities. Restore my good name. The villagers chimed in, right. This guy is clearly no good. Why slander anyone else? He dares to slander Yen Yen? She's the finest girl in our village. He's got no shame at all, sitting at someone's doorstep trying to frame them. Several sturdy villagers bound him, intending to deliver him to the authorities. Fearing something might go wrong, I followed along. I wanted to hand him over to the authorities quickly. Once at the authorities, his identity would be exposed. The crown prince would surely have him killed. But halfway there, something felt off. Throughout the journey to the authorities, he offered no resistance. He was even remarkably calm. This was someone being hunted by imperial troops, his reaction was off. He was meticulous, decisive, and openly ambitious. He'd never just stand there waiting to be killed. This reaction was definitely wrong. Suddenly, I remembered, in my previous life, the prefect of Changzhou Prefecture was promoted directly to Minister of Personnel after Pei Yu ascended the throne. All officials in Changzhou Prefecture rose to prominence along with him. The day after I rescued Pei Yu, the magistrate of Taoxian County, where Taocun was located, personally led officials to search the area. When they saw Pei Yu, I claimed he was my brother, injured while gathering herbs in the mountains. They believed me. They even kindly gave me wound medicine. I remember wondering, how could they be so kind? How could they believe so easily? Now I realize they weren't hunting a fugitive at all. They came armed not only with swords and spears, but also with thick, long ropes. In our region, such ropes are used for rescue operations. They weren't searching for a fugitive. They were rescuing one. No wonder Pei Yu chose Changzhou Prefecture to strike against the crown prince. This Changzhou must be his sphere of influence. That's why he's not worried now. Delivering him to the authorities plays right into his hands. It's like releasing a tiger back into the mountains. Recalling my tragic death in my past life and the village's devastation, I broke out in a cold sweat. I foolishly believed my past knowledge would make revenge easy. I forgot he, too, had been reborn. He remembers his past life as well. And he's far more cunning and ruthless than I am. He was more vicious and ruthless than I. My current situation in Taocun was far more perilous than in my past life. How could I have been so careless and reckless? I secretly beckoned Brother Heisey closer and cautioned him, whatever we say or do now must never be overheard by others. Go check the county office discreetly first, see if there are any signs of officials conducting searches. That fellow seems unconcerned about being reported to the authorities, he must be up to something. If the officers come out, and besides their swords and spears, they carry thick ropes, you must hurry ahead of them and cut the log bridge connecting Taocun to the county office. They must not be allowed to cross, and no traces must be left behind. If anyone asks, say a flash flood washed it away. Hurry, go and return swiftly. I wasn't yet certain how the second life would differ, so I sent Brother Heisey to scout ahead. Though he didn't understand my reasoning, he always trusted my words. Under the pretense of needing to relieve himself, he slipped away from the escort. Watching him run off, I signaled the others to find a spot by the roadside to rest. Much sooner than I expected, Brother Heisey returned, panting and drenched in sweat. My heart skipped a beat. By my calculations, he shouldn't have reached the county office yet. Blending into the escort group, he whispered, "Peach blossom floods are happening these days. I'll scout ahead." Moments later, he dashed back, reporting, "The bridge up ahead was washed out by the flood. We can't cross." I feigned irritation and resignation as I signaled everyone to turn back. On the return journey, Pei Yu clearly grew suspicious, yet he couldn't pinpoint any flaws in my story. Brother Heisey whispered to me, "I'd barely crossed the bridge and hadn't gone 2 li when I spotted the constables. They were carrying thick ropes." Yen, you're amazing, you even predicted this." I just went back to the broken bridge, and the constables had already reached the other side. I hadn't expected the constables to arrive so quickly in this lifetime. In my previous life, the Crown Prince's men were stationed in the county town, monitoring the only road to the capital. This lifetime, I wonder if they're still there. Those people operate in secret, they're certainly not someone an ordinary person could easily approach. I must find a way to contact them immediately. If the county officials find Pei Yu first, the situation will be perilous. The urgent priority is to uncover the full details of Pei Yu's current incarnation. How many accomplices does he have? Why did they save Pei Yu only to leave him at my doorstep? Even after we beat him up just now, his accomplices never showed themselves. Pei Yu is a man capable of usurping the throne and seizing power. He has no shortage of talented individuals and extraordinary people under him, nor is he lacking in methods like poison and intoxicating scents. The fact that his accomplices haven't appeared can only mean he has something he fears or some scheme he's plotting. Then we must start by targeting his fears and schemes. Taking him back to the village, where to lock him up is a problem. If we lock him in my house, I'm just an orphaned girl, that wouldn't look right. In Pei Yu's eyes, it would only be more proof that we're involved. If we lock him in someone else's house, it would bring that family immense risk. I'll go talk to the village head. The village head suggested, place him in that abandoned city god temple. It has ample space. I suddenly recalled accompanying my mother to sell food at the temple years ago. The old Taoist priest mentioned a hidden chamber beneath the opera stage, dug long ago as a refuge. Most people remain unaware of it. The village head's suggestion was perfect. I would use this place to stage a performance. Let that beast suffer every torment and expose his true nature. When Pei Yu arrived at the temple, he was visibly tense. Yen, why didn't you bring me home? I spat in his face, Pa. Shameless scoundrel. At a time like this, you still spout nonsense, trying to ruin my reputation? Say one more word, and I'll cut out your tongue. Pei Yu didn't even flinch at the spit splattering his face. Instead, he fixed me with a burning gaze, devouring my face and body with his eyes. Then he grinned and said, Yen is still as fiery as ever. Hearing that, I punched him squarely in the eye and screamed, stop your nonsense. I'll gouge your eyes out. I turned to the villagers and declared, let's hurry and finish repairing the bridge. Then we'll send this shameless scoundrel straight to the magistrate's office. I was determined to make it clear I was focused on delivering him to the authorities. To my surprise, upon hearing this, Pei Yu declared with feigned passion, Yen, whether you believe it or not, in this life and the last, I've only ever loved you. Good heavens! Holy moly! How dare this beast utter such words? Wasn't he just asking to be beaten? Without another word, I slapped him twice across the face, you worthless beast. You want a beating, don't you? This lady will grant your wish. I struck him with all my might. But truth be told, my hands weren't particularly strong. He took the blows, still looking unconcerned. He even licked the side of his cheek with his tongue, grinning like a rogue teasing an innocent woman. It was driving me crazy. Forget any reservations, I kicked off my straw sandal and swung it at him. I was determined to wipe that smirk off his face. I'd rather beat him to death than let him drive me mad. The sole of that sandal was incredibly rough. 2 swats from the soles instantly carved bloody gashes across his delicate skin. He cherished that face of his. After all, in my past life, I too had been bewitched by his beauty. That thought only fueled my rage. You insolent scoundrel! I spat. Say another word of nonsense, and I'll make sure you don't live to see the authorities arrive. I'll gouge out your eyes first. With that, I yanked the bamboo hairpin from my hair, pressed it against his eye, and demanded in a low voice, want to try it? Pei Yu's face drained of color. He finally fell silent. Gone was that haughty, mocking expression. He finally remembered I was someone who slaughtered chickens and sheep without batting an eye. Yet, hearing my fury, Pei Yu still intended to send him to the authorities, clearly relieved. But I couldn't relax. What was he afraid of? What was he plotting? The answer was a matter of life and death. Thinking this, I told myself, I must first make him believe I'm not reincarnated. So, if this were our first meeting today, what should I do now? In my mind, I transformed him into a complete stranger. Then, the words flowed naturally. Who are you? Why are you here? Where did those wounds come from? Why are you slandering my good name? Yes. I told myself. If I didn't know him, these were the questions I should ask. Hearing this, he actually replied with a smile, I'm the one who loves you. I came specifically to find you, so I went to your home. These injuries? I fell off a cliff by accident. I'm not framing you, I truly know you. I want to grow old with you, for all eternity. And now he dares to sweet-talk me. Thinks I'm some pushover. In my past life in Taocun, I was the most cheerful, bold girl around. It was only after marrying him and becoming pregnant that I reined myself in. And it was for the sake of our child's survival that I made such compromises. He must have forgotten my true nature. But this means he probably believes I haven't been reborn. After speaking, he licked his lips and looked at me. In my past life, he was always skilled at using that gesture to tempt me. Seeing it now was utterly laughable. Silently, I raised my hand and snapped my fingers. The moment Pei Yu saw my gesture, his body trembled involuntarily. He knew I was about to summon the peach blossom snake. That snake carried no venom, yet possessed a peculiar effect. Anyone bitten by it would feel as if ants swarmed their body, an unbearable, maddening itch. Without an antidote, scratching oneself to shreds wouldn't ease the itch. One must endure 3 hours before relief comes. Pei Yu knew about the peach blossom snake from my past life. Now, seeing me prepare to summon it, he finally softened. He warned warily, "What are you doing? Qin Yin Yen, don't do something you'll regret." Regret? Ha! Nothing in my past life caused me more regret than that. The peach blossom snake slithered closer, its tongue flickering. Pei Yu's face drained as he shouted, "Qin Yin Yen, if you dare use the snake, I'll expose your secret." I retorted, "I, Qin Yin Yen, walk with integrity. What secret could I possibly have? Do you think I'm afraid of you? Your undershirt is white, embroidered with pink peach blossoms." My heart skipped a beat, and my face flushed instantly. I got that right, didn't I? I also know. He paused menacingly. I pulled out my shoe insole and shoved it into his mouth, cursing, "You filthy scoundrel. Looks like you scouted the place beforehand. You watched me washing clothes and made up this nonsense. I won't let you ruin my reputation again." As I spoke, I summoned more peach blossom snakes. With his mouth stuffed, Pei Yu couldn't shout, only managing muffled woo-woo-woo sounds. Soon, his body was racked with unbearable itching, like thousands of ants gnawing at his flesh. He could only writhe frantically. I watched him with satisfaction, deliberately taunting, "You look just like a dung beetle rolling its ball of manure." In no time, he was drenched in sweat. Sitting before him as he struggled, I asked, "Dare you slander me again? When I question you, dare you withhold the truth?" He nodded frantically. "Me, if you dare utter another word of nonsense, I'll rip out your tongue." With that, I pulled out my shoe insole. Pei Yu gasped, his laughter laced with agony. I truly fell in by accident while gathering herbs. The peach blossom flood was fierce, sweeping me straight downstream. I lost consciousness. But fate spared me. I was carried into a backwater bay. My head hit a rock, and that jolted me awake. I struggled with all my strength to climb out. Dazed and disoriented, I collapsed right in front of your house. I didn't mean to find you. I only learned your name when I heard that girl call you Yen Yen. Pei Yu truly possessed a patience beyond measure. Even in this situation, he dared not speak the truth. Yet now, I couldn't say I didn't believe him. I had to pretend to trust him, lulling him into a false sense of security. Then, step by step, I would uncover his schemes. Everything seemed so similar to my past life. But it wasn't the same. He was different. And I, too, had changed. I would become even more ruthless than him. I had him bound and dragged onto the stage. Then I declared loudly, "Light the bonfires. Let everyone see this shameless man. No antidote for him today. Slandering me like this, sparing his life is already too lenient. Once the bridge is repaired, we'll send him to the authorities and give him 200 lashes. Let his flesh split open. We'll see if he dares spout nonsense then." I would use this humiliation and torture to force him to reveal his accomplices. The village headman said he would send several strong laborers to take turns keeping watch, while the others could go home and rest first. The bridge repairs would begin tomorrow. Everyone agreed and dispersed. I handed a packet to one of them, pretending to whisper, "The poison will wear off on its own within 3 hours. But be prepared if he doesn't last that long. Watch him closely. Give him the antidote when death approaches. Don't let him die on our watch." With that, I returned the peach blossom snake to its pouch and headed home. That Pei Yu was watching me intently. He must have seen everything. Heh heh. The antidote was genuine, but I'd added something extra. Under cover of darkness, I slipped back to the city god temple and hid in the secret chamber beneath the stage. If they harmed the guarding villagers, or once I confirmed all their accomplices had arrived, I would release the snakes. After about the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, I saw the 6 guarding villagers collapse into unconsciousness. Clearly, they'd been drugged with sleeping incense. Then 2 shadowy figures emerged, one dark-faced, one pale-faced. They checked each villager in turn, confirming all were unconscious. They then untied Pei Yu and knelt before him. Pei Yu had no time for words. He tore off his outer robe and began frantically scratching his body. In moments, he was covered in blood. He growled hoarsely, "Hurry up and find the antidote?" He directed them to the packet of medicine I had given him. He had one person dip their fingertip in it and swallow a small amount. After about 3 to 5 minutes with no reaction, Pei Yu hastily swallowed the entire packet. In just a moment, the itching ceased. But his entire body was now covered in blood, a truly gruesome sight. His face darkened as he pulled his outer robe back on. "That bitch! I'll skin her alive and rip out her tendons." My heart whispered, "Exactly. This vicious side is the real him." All those sappy words about deep affection? Utterly sickening. He pressed, "Did you inspect the bridge? How did it collapse?" The dark-faced man, "Your Highness, forgive me. When I arrived, the single log bridge had vanished. It must have been swept away by the mountain flood." The pale-faced man, "Your Highness, after all that torment from that woman, perhaps you should." He mimicked a slashing motion across his throat. Pei Yu declared, "Not yet. She possesses snake-banishing abilities. That peach blossom snake is profoundly malevolent. We must acquire her method. That skill outweighs the worthless fool's entire military force in Tongzhou City." I chuckled inwardly, so he covets my snake-banishing secret. In my past life, he witnessed the power of snake repelling firsthand. Back then, refugees were raiding villages, killing anyone who resisted. To protect the entire village's lives and property, I had no choice but to use it once. That peach blossom snake instantly stripped a mob of near madmen of their ability to fight back. He must have coveted it since that moment. He'd once tried to probe around it indirectly. I nearly spilled the beans. But I remembered my mother's stern warnings, never reveal it to anyone, not even the closest confidant. For this power was passed down through my mother's bloodline, naturally inherited by me. Others simply couldn't wield it. If anyone learned the secret and I refused to serve them, it would surely bring death upon me. Trusting my mother's words, I deflected his inquiries. In my past life, he abducted me into the palace, feigning tender affection to coax me into revealing the snake-banishing technique. I refused. He then demanded I use this power against disobedient ministers. I refused, pleading with him earnestly. Besides, I no longer possessed that snake-banishing power by then. For this power vanishes upon pregnancy, naturally transferring to the fetus. Thus, those possessing this power could never bear children unless they willingly relinquished it. Yet Pei Yu believed my silence and refusal to use the power meant I refused to serve him. Moreover, to conceal his murder of the crown prince to seize the throne, he and his followers spread rumors far and wide. They proclaimed he was heaven-sent, protected by divine favor in times of peril. Taocun village simply could not exist. My tragic death was inevitable. Yet Pei Yu could never have imagined that the very snake-banishing power he coveted so deeply was the very thing he himself had destroyed. The child I carried was the only being in this world capable of possessing that spiritual power. What a colossal irony! This, before he dies, I must tell him. The dark-faced man cautiously pressed, "But does she know about the prince?" "If she knows even a shred, the entire village must be wiped out. The snake-banishing skill is merely icing on the cake. If word of our affair leaks, it'll cost us our lives." Pei Yu replied, "I've got that covered. Today I tested her repeatedly with every trick in the book. Even in her rage, she showed no cracks. Leave the villagers alone for now. We're still in hiding." Slaughtering the village would alert the snake. We failed to kill that good-for-nothing. We must bide our time. We can't let that old bastard catch on. The dark-faced man asked, "Are you certain she remains unaware, Your Highness?" "That woman. I find her utterly unpredictable." Pei Yu scoffed. "Her? Humph. As if she could ever escape my grasp. With just a touch of my art, she'll be utterly devoted to me." Hearing this nearly made me spit blood. In my past life, hadn't I been exactly as he described, utterly devoted to him? Pei Yu then inquired, "Any news on Qinghong and the other?" The pale-faced man replied, "After luring away the crown prince's pursuers, they turned back to trail them. They discovered the pair disguised as merchants, hiding at the Yulian without reporting to the authorities. Could they be suspicious of the Taoxian county government too? Pei Yu said, at least a few of that useless man's men have brains. Unlike that good-for-nothing magistrate Zhao. A single log bridge could block him. The pale-faced man asked, what's the next step? Pei Yu said, have Magistrate Zhao go to Taocun tomorrow without fail. Say he's escorting me back to the county office. Arrange for an ambush along the way, then choose Qin Yanyan's house for detention. I must capture Qin Yanyan. Tao Village is the perfect place to hide. Both land and water routes offer strategic advantages for attack or retreat. The villagers are simple folk. Deceiving them will be easy. Ignore those useless underlings. I have no intention of escaping anyway. What good is it for them to guard that key passage? Fools! Have Qing and Hong contact the prefect of Changzhou. Assemble troops outside Taocun in 15 days. Once ready, leave me a secret signal. Understood. After answering, the two rebound Pei Yu before slipping away. This bastard really is full of scheming, and he thinks he's so clever. I'll turn his scheme against him. I slipped out from the stage, swam across the village under cover of night, and disguised myself as a man to reach the Yulian in the county town. While beating Pei Yu earlier, I'd casually snatched the jade pendant from his waist. At the inn, I found the tea-serving boy. I paid him 10 strings of cash to deliver the jade pendant to the northern guests staying at the inn that day. Moments later, someone approached my table and asked, might I offer you a jug of wine, sir? By the time I returned to Taocun, dawn was breaking. I figured Magistrate Zhao's men would be arriving soon. The guards who woke up had no idea what had happened. Seeing Pei Yu still bound to the stage, I breathed a sigh of relief. Pei Yu pretended to be asleep. I splashed a basin of salt water over him. He let out a piercing scream. His wounds hadn't scabbed over yet, and the salt water soaked into them, causing him excruciating pain. I walked over and patted his face. He still feigned drowsiness. I casually fastened the jade pendant back around his waist. After breakfast, Magistrate Zhao arrived. True to Pei Yu's words, he insisted on detaining Pei Yu at my residence. I feigned reluctance, then pretended to yield to official authority and allowed Pei Yu to stay. 2 constables were also lodged with us. They were none other than his 2 henchmen, the one with the pale face and the one with the dark face. Once the bridge was repaired, they claimed Pei Yu's injuries required rest and never took him away. Day after day, Pei Yu showered me with tender care and thoughtful gestures. Despite his own wounds, he insisted on washing my feet. I gave him another scolding. Yet I improved his meals considerably. His heart grew bold. He believed my harsh words masked a secret affection for him. His overconfidence saved me a great deal of effort. I calculated that the refugees who had raided our village in my past life would return in just 10 days. That Pei Yu clearly knew the date too. He feigned illness, waiting for the day I'd perform the snake-banishing ritual. He believed that with the experience of my past life, he'd surely figure it out this time. I would make him understand. Make him understand until it tore his heart apart. Meanwhile, another event unfolded in the Great Yu Kingdom. Cotton in the Jiangnan region had enjoyed 3 consecutive years of bumper harvests. A mild winter followed. Cotton farmers couldn't sell their harvest and slashed prices drastically. Now, in summer, the cotton was just sitting there, about to be eaten by insects. Its price was lower than firewood. I sent Brother Heisey to the county town to find a warehouse and secretly stockpile cotton. He was the perfect man for the job. He trusted me implicitly, was quiet, and dependable. Others may not know, but I understood, those refugees fled because war was imminent in the northern frontier. That conflict dragged on for 4 long years. By winter, northern soldiers desperately needed cotton garments and quilts. Yet this summer, nearly all the cotton had been abandoned. The imperial court was forced to spend vast sums procuring supplies from all directions. Combined with war expenditures, the treasury was depleted. Pei Yu seized power precisely during this national crisis. The crown prince, however, genuinely cared for his country and its people. I must aid the crown prince. I must also repay the villagers for their kindness. It's a way to make amends for the suffering they endured in their past lives. Gradually, refugees began passing through the village. Initially, they could beg for food along the way. Later, they could beg for nothing at all. So some refugees began to plunder. Pei Yu sat comfortably in his house, feigning weakness as he recovered. He knew I would drive away snakes to protect the villagers, so he wasn't worried about the refugees. But he didn't know that his weakness wasn't entirely feigned. The 10 fragrance muscle relaxing powder my mother taught me was truly miraculous. It slowly saps one's strength without them noticing. Moreover, the powder makes one's blood emit a sweet fragrance. After 10 days of ingestion, any bleeding releases an intoxicating scent. The day a large group of refugees arrived finally came. Early that morning, a crescent-shaped gash appeared on the peach tree before our door. The dark-faced man went out and returned swiftly. The 3 of us exchanged silent nods, then ate breakfast with great ease. After breakfast, I headed out to farm as usual. In my past life, it was in these very fields that I witnessed those refugees plundering villagers, prompting me to unleash my snake summoning technique. Though I narrowly prevailed, I was left covered in wounds. Seeing me prepare to leave, Pei Yu's cheeks twitched. "Be careful," he said. I shot him a look. Careful plowing? What about choking on my food? Pei Yu took my reaction at face value. About half an hour later, clamor erupted at the village entrance. In moments, it reached the vicinity of my home. Pei Yu looked taken aback. In my past life, I had stopped these people midway. The pale-faced man peered over the wall. Suddenly he said, "Something's wrong. Where are the children? The adults are out in the fields, but the children are nowhere to be seen?" No sooner had the words left his mouth than a hissing sound erupted from inside the house. Hundreds of snakes emerged. The 3 men couldn't kill them fast enough and were all bitten. All 3 began scratching frantically, blood streaming down their bodies. The blood released a strong, sweet scent. Their bodies went limp and weak. Pei Yu realized something had changed and ordered the dark-faced man to rush outside the village for help. Earlier that morning, the 3 had spotted the markings on the tree. Only the dark-faced man had sneaked to the village edge to investigate. The dark-faced man had glimpsed faint signs of troops stationed there, assuming they were reinforcements brought by Qing and Hong. Now, he too realized something was terribly wrong. Thus, enduring the unbearable itching, he stumbled and staggered toward the direction of the stationed troops. He still didn't know he was walking straight into a trap. The troops stationed there belonged to the Crown Prince. 15 days prior, at the inn, I struck a deal with the Crown Prince's men. I revealed Pei Yu's plans in exchange for 1,000 taels of silver. But that wasn't all. I explained that Pei Yu, now among the common folk, had not yet revealed his true nature. Instead, he had gained a reputation for virtue. If the Crown Prince were to kill him outright, it would reflect poorly on him. Moreover, should the current emperor learn of it, the Crown Prince's position would become unstable. It would be better to eliminate him through the hands of the displaced people. The Crown Prince's men asked, "Why should we trust you?" I replied, "Go intercept Qing and Hong. After a thorough interrogation, you will know my words are true. Moreover, I possess supernatural abilities. Cooperating with me will benefit the Crown Prince's cause, not harm it." As someone reborn, and with the many skills my mother passed down to me, displaying a bit of supernatural power was no trouble at all. Merely mentioning the refugees and the northern border conflict was enough to win their trust. For now, the northern border was only experiencing minor skirmishes. The Great Yu Kingdom deliberately feigned peace talks, and the common folk remained unaware of the actual preparations for war. Those refugees hadn't even reached the borders of Changzhou yet. And I already knew all this. After reporting back, the Crown Prince's men agreed to cooperate with me. A day prior, this band of refugees had heard a rumor from somewhere. If they encountered someone whose blood carried a peculiar fragrance, they could collect it in a small flask and exchange it for 100 taels of silver at the prefectural capital. It was said to be a precious medicinal ingredient. The governor's beloved son was gravely ill and urgently needed it. Early that morning, the refugees were swept along, heading straight for Taocun. For someone had claimed the person with the fragrant blood was in Taocun. No one knew who had spread the rumor. They only knew that someone had already obtained the blood and exchanged it for 100 taels of silver. This news drove the refugees into a frenzy. Somehow, they found their way toward my home. As soon as they neared my house, they caught the scent. They broke down the door and swarmed toward Pei Yu. Pei Yu and the pale-faced man, weakened by the concoctions I'd been slipping into their food daily, were already drained by the sight of blood. The refugees grabbed knives and began fighting over who would cut them. They truly drained every vein, then sliced inch by inch to squeeze out the last drops of blood. They were determined to extract every last drop. As Pei Yu lay dying, I whispered into his ear, "Do you know about that snake-repelling power? After I became pregnant, I passed it on to the fetus in my womb." "So, the snake-repelling technique you cherished so dearly? You destroyed it yourself." With his last ounce of strength, Pei Yu let out a wretched howl and breathed his last. When he died, his blood had drained dry, his flesh was gone, not a single piece of skin remained intact. Summer passed. The matter of Pei Yu passed. The villager I had persuaded to hide in the mountains that day, escaping the refugees, never witnessed Pei Yu's gruesome fate. When they returned from the mountains, the crown prince's men had already cleared everything away. They only knew that a man had come to the village intending to molest me, and that he had soon after been killed by the refugees. I organized all the children in the village to make cotton jackets and quilts. They were all curious why we were doing this in such hot weather. I told them it was to earn money. They believed me. In their eyes, I was a magical person, just like my mother. My mother once said she couldn't control when she would leave. But if she vanished, I shouldn't grieve. I just needed to remember the skills she taught me to live well. I had the villagers go up the mountain to gather wormwood. Wormwood wasn't valuable. Fresh, it couldn't be stored. So I had them dry it thoroughly before storing it. Then I taught them how to brew it. Winter would bring another malaria epidemic. Without this remedy, many would die. By October, war erupted in the northern frontier. The bitter cold demanded urgent warmth. Cotton prices soared in the market, yet it remained scarce. The crown prince's men arrived as promised to collect my cotton goods. All of it was for the soldiers defending the border. I sold it to the crown prince at cost. To the emperor, the crown prince was a far-sighted strategist, truly capable of great service. To the soldiers of the northern frontier, the crown prince cared deeply for them, and they were willing to lay down their lives for him. The crown prince also wanted to collaborate with me, but I refused. I had to leave this village. Because, as my mother had said, knowing that someone like me existed meant certain death. Even the most virtuous ruler would have moments of suspicion. Though my cotton goods were sold at fair prices, I purchased them at rates lower than firewood. This allowed the entire village of Taocun to earn more than they could ever hope to in a lifetime. I also taught my young friends how to make jianbing and flower-shaped pastries. I told them that girls must also have the ability to support themselves. If their husbands treated them poorly, these skills could still provide a livelihood. As winter approached, I departed. I bid farewell to no one, just as my mother had done. She told me of her homeland, where the sea stretched boundlessly blue, bathed in eternal sunshine. I cherish warmth and adore the ocean. I resolved to journey further south, to seek the place where my mother once lived. The story ends here. Thank you for your companionship. Until next time.